day, everyone! My name is Lady Lucy Katubay
And I am Trisha A. Kahandik,
your reporter for today. Our report is all about the 5 hypotheses of Stephen Krashen. Stephen D. Krashen is expert in the field of linguistics. He is also known for introducing various hypotheses related to second language acquisition.
These are the 5 hypotheses of Stephen Krashen. First is the acquisition learning distinction. Next is the natural order hypothesis. Next is the monitor hypothesis. Next is the input hypothesis. And last is the affective filter hypothesis. This is the acquisition learning hypothesis.
Acquisition learning hypothesis, there are 2 independent systems of second language performance: the acquisition system and the learning system. But first, we are going to identify what is acquisition and learning. Acquisition is a product of subconscious processes and very similar to the process children undergoes when they acquire their first language. Learning is a product of a formal learning. It needs the formal situations, depends on aptitude, and uses grammatical rules. And in addition to that, the first way in language acquisition, a process similar, if not identical, the way children develop ability in their first language. In non-technical language acquisition is picking up a language. Some second language theories have assumed that children acquire while adults can only learn. According to Along 1977, error correction has no effect on subconscious acquisition, but is thought to be useful for conscious learning. The acquisition learning distinction may not be unique to second language acquisition. In acquisition learning, the student acquires language unconsciously. This is similar when a child picks up their first language. The next hypothesis of Stephen Krashen is the natural order hypothesis. The natural order hypothesis is one of the exciting discoveries in language acquisition research in recent years has been the finding that the acquisition of grammatical structure proceeds in a predictable order. English is the most studied language as far as the natural order hypothesis is concerned. And of all structures of English, morphology is the most studied. And according to this, children acquiring English as the first language tended to acquire certain grammatical morphemes. Also, in natural order hypothesis, children acquiring English as far as the first language tended to acquire certain grammatical morphemes or functions word earlier than others, according to Brown's 1973. For example, the progressive marker ing, as in he is playing baseball. After Brown's results were published, Dooley and Burt's 1974 to 1975 reported that children acquiring English as a second language also show a natural order for grammatical morphemes regardless on their first language. Dooley and Burt's results have been confirmed by a number of investigators. Kisser and Adar, 1977, Fabris, 1978, Macchiarino, 1980, Dooley and Burt uses a subset of the 14 morphemes. So as you can see, an average order of acquisition of grammatical morphemes for English as a second language. This is all about what the example I already mentioned earlier. For the conclusion, the natural order hypothesis suggests that those who learn a second language tends to acquire some aspect of the language before others, and that these elements generally follow a predictable order. This order, research has found, has followed reasonable closely regardless of students' prior language background or their language style.
This is the monitor hypothesis. It explains the relationship between acquisition and learning. According to Krashen, the acquisition is the utterance initiator. The learning system performs the monitor or the editor. This monitor acts in a planning, editing, and correcting, where three conditions are met. The three specific conditions are sufficient time, focus and form, and knowledge of the rule. So the role of the monitor is to correct the deviations from normal speech and to give speech a more polished appearance. Krashen also identifies language learners with regard to monitor use. He distinguished those who use the monitor all the time as the monitor overusers. Those who preferred not to use their conscious knowledge is what we call the monitor underusers. Those learners that use the monitor appropriately is the optimal monitor. The input hypothesis. It is Krashen's attempt to explain how second language acquisition takes place. According to this hypothesis, the learner improves and progresses along the natural order. When he or she receives the natural language input, when he receives second language input, that is one stage beyond his linguistic competence. In all of this formula, I stands for input. In the first formula, input is the current level of linguistics understanding in the second language. +1 is the teaching material, which is one step above learner's current understanding. In the second formula, there is no learning that will occur. In the third formula, if a student tries to learn at that 2 level, they will likely get confused and struggle to acquire new language skills. Here, we discovered that natural communicative input is the key to designing a syllabus. The effective filter hypothesis.
These state that ability to acquire language is concentrate if they are experiencing negative emotion such as fear or embarrassment. Krashen claims that learning with high motivation, self-confidence, and good self-image and a low level of anxiety are better equipped for second language acquisition.
Also, learners' feeling or attitude as an adjustable filter that freely pass, impedes, or block input necessary to acquisition. There are 3 kinds of affective or attitudinal variables related to SLA. Motivation is high, self-confidence is high, anxiety is low by Richards and Rogers 2011. The strengths of affective filter hypothesis is that teachers try to reduce learners' negative feelings and the learners can have higher competence.
So for our conclusion, this is one of the less significant hypotheses on the list. It states that there are a number of factors that influence second language acquisition, including motivation, confidence, anxiety, and other traits that may be part of individual's personality and may positively or negatively impact the flows of language acquisition and learning.
That's all for today. Thank you for watching.